Shannon, I want to start with you here. Have you lost confidence in Brock Purdy?
Lost confidence. I knew what he was to begin with. I noticed when we had this conversation about 3 weeks ago, Stephen A., I was trending because I said Brock Purdy wasn't elite. Now, all of a sudden, I ain't getting nothing. Nobody was on my timeline. Shannon doesn't know what he's talking about. Shannon's a hater. He's jealous. I didn't get any of that last night. Remember, I said if you remove that hedge, it's amazing. The Minnesota Vikings and Brian Flores says, you know what? We're taking Christian McCaffrey away. We refuse to let him run the football. We want the ball in that elite quarterback's hand, Brock Purdy. And what happened? 2 interceptions. They had 3 interceptions. They had 3 turnovers coming into the game. They had 3 turnovers in their first 6 games.
Okay.
They had 3 last night. And when the defense can't be perfect, Kirk Cousins was 8 of 13 on 3rd downs. When he couldn't be perfect, when everything around him couldn't be perfect, and they asked Brock Purdy to deliver us, he didn't. He didn't do it. He is what he is, because I look at it like this. If Brock Purdy is elite, we need another definition for Patrick Mahomes, because he's ungodly. He's astronomical. He's out of the world. Brock Purdy is what he is. When things are really, really well, he can operate within that system Saturday. But when you ask him to go outside and to be extraordinary, Christian McCaffrey can't run the football. You're down Debo. And then you saw what happened. He is what he is. And I didn't lose confidence because I know what he was to begin with.
I got you. Let me chime in here, Jeff Saturday, because listen, I've lost confidence in him because I had a belief in him. 20 touchdowns, just 2 interceptions in his first 10 regular season starts. That's what we were looking at with Brock Purdy. Yeah, you looked at the system that Kyle Shanahan was putting in place, but then ultimately you looked at Brock Purdy and you compared them to the other quarterbacks that were there compared to what they were doing. And you're saying this is the dude, this is the guy, and it's the future. And I'm not saying that's still not the case. But I'm looking at the velocity on some of his throws, his arm strength, etc. And I'm saying, excuse me, he doesn't have the strongest arm in the world. Obviously,
no.
Timing factors into the equation. You're looking at the chemistry he had with the Debo Samuels and Ayuk, and obviously Christian McCaffrey there, George Kittle, we can't forget that. But with Debo Samuels out there not having that reliable component to throw the ball to, it seems to have compromised him to such a degree. I also think we got to pay attention to Kyle Shanahan. Did y'all notice that the 49ers since 2017 went down by 5 points or more in the 4th quarter? They are 0-29 under Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan. Do you realize that? 0-29 when you're down by 5 or more in the 4th quarter since 2017. I'm like, my God, really? I had to double check that with my research. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, there's something wrong with it. Go ahead, Shannon. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Can I tell you why?
Go ahead, please.
When you just have guys that are system guys, you can't have that expectation that they're going to be Patrick Mahomes, that they're going to be Joe Burrow, that they're going to be one of these elite level quarterbacks, because he just has guys. You have a Mullen, you have a Brian Hoyer, you have a Jimmy G, you have a Brock Purdy. Yeah, I'm not surprised at that stat, because everybody that you just mentioned and everybody that played in that system are just guys. So and without perfection around them, they can't succeed.
I got that part, but what I'm saying is we anticipated and assumed, even with you being, I wouldn't say critical, because you've been more than fair to Brock Purdy, as you are to most of the guys, all the guys that you cover. But I will tell you this, you never mentioned them in the same breath as you mentioned those other dudes. The Mullins of the world and the Hoyers of the world. We thought Brock Purdy was better than that, Jeff Saturday. Now I'm not so sure, and I'm just looking at it now. You're averaging over 33 points a game to start the season 5-0, only 17 points in your 2-game losing streak. 2 turnovers, enter the game with 3 turnovers, a +8 in turnover margin. Now you've had about 3 turnovers and only forced 1 turnover last night. I don't like what I'm seeing. And to have Debo out, and that's really it, Jeff, and for them to be at this point, I expected better from San Francisco.
Brock Purdy, what you're asking him to do and what I'm not calling him Joe Montana, by no means. I've heard a lot of guys try to compare him to, but in the last 2 years, he has thrown more tight window passes for completions than anybody in the NFL. So he's not just a system guy. He does play outside the numbers at times. Here is the situation with them last night. They start the game with a turnover on defense. Now Christian McCaffrey gives the ball back up in the red zone. Can't happen. Drives them back down. They miss another field goal. So as this defense that we talked about all season being able to lock it down, Kirk Cousins goes out and just runs roughshod on him, throwing the ball for 350 plus, touchdowns, all kinds of things. There was a systematic failure with the 49ers, and it wasn't just about the quarterback. And you made mention, they did shut Christian McCaffrey down in the run game. They didn't run the ball nearly as effective as they had. But as you're talking about with or without Deebo Samuel, I'm going to give you some stats. With Deebo Samuel, Brock Purdy has a 71% completion rate. He's 8 touchdowns, no interceptions. His off-target throws are 12%. That's pretty good. Without him on the field, he's 61% completion rate. He's 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and he's off target 21%. Now you would go, well, hey, a quarterback should outplay. You look other than Patrick Mahomes, all right? Take him off the table because he is a different dude. He is a different level of elite. But everybody else in the league, man, when you lose that dude, when Josh Allen loses Diggs, or when you see these guys become different quarterbacks because they got that guy. Deebo is that guy for the offense. And they move him around in motions. They put him in the backfield. They get great matchups that does give a quarterback, especially a young quarterback, a lot of confidence. And listen, the first interception to Jennings that he throws, Jennings does like an extra stem, Shannon, and then comes back and he's late to the ball. It's a bad ball. I'm not taking Purdy off the hook there. It's a bad ball. But he's assuming the receiver's going to be where he is if it's like another receiver running the route. So it happens. But Brock Purdy has put this team in the position to talk about 10 wins, no losses before these last 2 weeks. And by the way, the week they played the Browns and lost, he did bring them back against the #1 defense. And if their kicker makes a 40-yard kick, which every kicker in the NFL should, we're talking about a one-loss football team. Now, he can't do any more. Did he play great in that game? No. But when all the chips were on the table, and that's what you were talking about, Shannon, when it's all in, you got to push all in. He did make that throw to Ayuk, who goes up the middle and gets them in position to make the field goal. That's all you can ask of a QB. He can't do any more. And listen, did he play great last night? I'm not saying he played great, but I have lost no confidence in him. I think the team as a whole has hit a 2-game stretch that is ugly. How many missed tackles did you see last night from San Fran? Bro, they never miss tackles. And I mean, you got Greenwell missing. You got everybody in there. You see Ward have a pick in his hand at the end of the half, and Addison strips it out of his hand and walks in the end zone. Like, those aren't plays that the defense can give up when your offense doesn't have Deebo nor Trent Williams starting. So you can't go on Purdy.
Go ahead, Shannon, real quick.
Yeah, and Bosa, the defense didn't play well last night.
No.
They didn't get the pressure that I thought they could generate. No sacks, you're right. And Bosa and Fred Warner was overrunning plays, and they didn't play well. They couldn't get off the field on 3rd down.
That's right.
If you can't get off the field on 3rd down, you give the opposing offense too many cracks at you to get the ball into the end zone. But the reason why I haven't lost confidence in Brock Purdy is because I see him for what he is, not what he isn't.